Hello everybody, and welcome back to DIO's Art Emporium. I know it's been a while. I've been in kind of a slump lately, so yeah. Today I want to have a bit of a discussion. No, not a discussion. Today we're doing a versus because I wanted to. DIO versus Diavolo. Who would win? Now, I'm sorry. Alright. I lost my train of thought for a second. Oh yeah, right. So I want to discuss what I believe would happen if these two were to get into an actual fight, and who would be more likely to come out on top, and I'll do an analysis, all that shit. And before we do this, I just want to quick disclaimer. This is just my opinion, and feel free to disagree. Tell me what you think in the comments. And anyways, let's get into this. So first, let's look at Diavolo, because surprisingly that might actually be a bit easier to explain. So in terms of his arsenal, he has his two stands, Epitaph and King Crimson. I know a lot of people are confused about how King Crimson works, and a lot of people over-explain it. So here's the most easy to understand way I can explain it. So he has two stands because he's got two souls, Diavolo and Doppio. Epitaph is Doppio's stand, King Crimson is Diavolo's. Epitaph can see about 10 seconds into the future. And King Crimson skips over time at about the same length. So whenever Diavolo uses one, he ends up using both at the same time. So not only is he skipping over a length of time, but he's also seeing a prediction of what was going to happen in the time that he skipped over. But that also means he can't really interact with anything in the prediction, because it's just a prediction. But he can still move around and change his actions while he's still skipping over time. And so yeah, there's that. Now let's leave it at that for the moment and go over to DIO. DIO has a lot going on. First of all, there's his stands. Yes, he also has two stands, because it's Jonathan's body with his head on it. So he has like his own hermit purple, whatever, that he doesn't really use that often. And he has the world, which, it's insanely strong, it can stop time, all that shit. So, and he also carries around a fuck ton of knives to throw it at people, and he's also really good at using things in his environment, like the road sign, the road roller. In the OVA, he threw like a bus, an oil tanker, and a big ass boat, whatever. And I feel I feel like he'd always do something similar to that in a well, not always, but like, I feel like he'd the option to just grab something really fucking big and use it and like throw it or slam it into someone or something like that will always, the option to do that will always be available to him. And his vampiric abilities are a bit confusing in terms of part 3. So that's what makes this a bit harder to explain than Diavolo. So when he lost like his body, he also lost like a lot of his vampiric abilities. Some of the biggest ones being, you know, he's no longer nearly as good at regenerating. He can no longer use his blood vaporization to freeze people in ice and shit. And he can no longer like teleport or fade away or turn invisible or whatever. Which, yes, that was a thing that happened in part 1. It was like after Bruford and Tarkus were introduced. It was when Dio left to return to the giant castle or whatever. You could see him like start to fade away. I'm not sure if it was like teleporting or invisibility or whatever. But yeah, it's like Thanos just snapped, except he wasn't really dead. But despite all of this, yeah, he's also like not nearly as strong now and all. But despite all of this, he does still retain in certain vampiric abilities, like he may not be as good at regenerating, but he still has regeneration, and it works even faster whenever he has access to someone's blood. Sorry. And if he receives enough blood, it will. He ends up. Not only does it improve his stand's abilities, but it'll also improve everything about him: his strength, his regeneration, all that shit. And another big thing that I feel a lot of people don't know is that he can still use the SRSE, the space rubber stingy eyes, the thing where he would shoot like those high pressure jets of whatever fluid out of his eyes that it was so powerful it could part the sky. Yeah, you know, the ones that looked like lasers. He can still do that. And we know this because not just in some of the games does he still do this, but also when he was reduced to just a head, he could still do it. In fact, it's what he used to kill Jonathan. So it would make sense that he would still be able to use it in part 3. So yeah, the only reason why the reason I believe that we don't see him do it at any point in part 3 is because he's arrogant. He's got a stand now. He can stop time. He can beat the shit out of people much more efficiently. He just views his stand powers as like just completely superior to vampiric abilities, and so chooses to only use his stand. So yeah, and of course there's also like he can also do like the flesh bud thing with his hair. So yeah. Now, comparing the two. So, with their abilities, even though both have 2 stands, both of Diavolo's are useful, while only one of Dio's is really useful here. Oh, and but the thing is, Diavolo can't interact with anything while time is being skipped, and he's seeing the prediction of what's happening in the skipped time and all. He has to like position himself so that he can attack someone after time has already been skipped, after the ability is already done. Meanwhile, Dio can do whatever the fuck and stop time. I mean, he can punch you so hard that not only is there a hole in your torso, but you go fucking flying jelly donut. No, those don't have holes. Fuck. He can use knives and shit to attack so that multiple people get attacked at once when time resumes. He can just punch multiple people, and then when time resumes, they all feel the effects of what happened. Like, Dio's not limited in that way. So yeah, but the world is his only useful stand. Hermit Purple, like, he can't really use that for much, and to be honest, he wouldn't. He never would. So then now another thing about the abilities is that Diavolo's goes for 10 seconds, but Dio's normally goes for 5, unless he has access to enough blood, in which case it'll increase dramatically, and it'll jump up to 9 and then gain an extra second every time he uses it. And so, yeah. In terms of, like, stats of how, like, strong or fast or whatever their stands are, Dio, like, just fucks up Diavolo in every way. Not to mention, with blood, it also gets stronger and faster, and can do more with its abilities and shit. And just, it fucks him up. Meanwhile, Diavolo, the stand stats may have been impressive compared to Passione, but when it comes to strength and speed and things like that, none of those stands could really compare that much with, like, stands from previous parts. Like, so yeah, yeah, and another thing that also helps Dio out in this situation is all of his vampiric abilities make him OP as shit compared to most stand users, because it just makes everything about him stronger. So yeah. But Dio does have the the critical weakness of his entire left side is like is like way more susceptible to damage that could result in a KO or whatever than any other part of his body. And Diavolo doesn't really have a weak spot on his stand. But it still can be. It's pretty much about. It can pretty much be fucked up to the same extent as any other stand. So yeah. Let's say one of them. Let's say they actually did get into a fight. See how it would go depending on which one activated their ability first. If it was Diavolo, he may have gotten like a good hit in at the beginning, but Dio's a vampire, so even if that hit would kill a normal human, Dio would still be able to retaliate, and after the fact would be able to use Diavolo's blood to heal. If it were Dio, then Diavolo would just be fucking. He'd be fucked. Even if Dio were to start out by just like kind of just messing around, not trying to go for any killing blows at first, he'd still be able to like, fuck up Diavolo. Because their stands are extremely similar, there's a likelihood that one, if the fight were to persist for a certain length of time, one would figure out the ability of the other. And I think it's more likely that Dio would figure out Diavolo's ability, because I know both their stands are very similar, but the thing is, Dio can do things in stops time, but Diavolo can't do things in the time that gets skipped. And since Dio's immortal and much harder to kill than a normal person, it would be much easier for him to figure out how Diavolo's ability works by just experiencing it. Like he'd see that like something weird happened with time, and that immediately after after that thing happened with time, he hit, but it didn't happen with like the instantaneousness that it happens to people that he stops time against. And he'd also be able to notice that it was only one hit that he got in, and he can tell by the delay that it was after the weird stuff with time happened. Meanwhile, and he can take a hit if need be in order to figure this out. Meanwhile, Diavolo, he'd like 90% of the time, 99% of the time, he'd be fucked. Because he'd either die instantly, or if Dio was just messing around, he wouldn't last long enough to get any crucial info on how Dio's stand works. So yeah, Dio versus Diavolo, Dio wins. But hey, this is just my opinion, and it's alright if you disagree with me. Let me know down in the comments what you think, which one you think should have won, and why you think that. And let me know if you want to have more of these versus things, and what characters you want to see fight each other. So anyway, yeah, that's about it. I'll see you guys later. Bye.